I didn't try to win. I just made sure that cheating witch lost.
By the fourth day in court, Dana still hadn't once met my eyes. Not when she cried through her story about our controlling marriage. Not while her closest friends spun lies about me. Not even as her lawyer Wexler, cocky guy in a pricey suit, paraded photos of our home, tagging each piece as hers, as if I was just some drifter who stumbled into luck. Then she bent close, whispered into Wexler's ear, and at last turned that smirk on me. Her lips barely parted, gloss shining as she mouthed silent words. The look on her face carried the blind pride of someone chewing a grenade pin, no clue what follows. Judge Ellison pushed his glasses higher and glanced up from the papers. Mr. Harding, you've been unusually quiet through all this. Do you have anything to say before I pause for review? I rose slow, no hurry. The squeal of my chair spoke louder than I had all week. Walked forward steady, like a man ordering coffee at dawn. Wexler studied me hard, waiting for some petty gripe about golf clubs or a rant over shaving cream. Instead, I opened my folder. One piece of paper, one paragraph highlighted in yellow. Nothing fancy, nothing dramatic. I didn't say a single word. Didn't need to. Just turned it toward the bench and slid it across. Judge Ellison leaned in and started reading. I watched Wexler crane his neck to see what I'd submitted, and the exact moment he spotted the text, something in his face just cracked. Not confusion, not annoyance. Pure, undiluted fear. Not for himself, for her. He went rigid like a corpse, then jerked toward Dana and grabbed her wrist, started whispering something urgent, too quiet for the court microphones to catch. That's when her smirk started to falter. "What is it?" she hissed at him, eyebrows tightening as confusion crept behind her courtroom makeup. Wexler didn't answer immediately, just shook his head slowly like he was watching a train wreck in slow motion. I finally spoke, voice clear and quiet, the kind that forces everyone to lean in. It's on page 7, clause 7C. You should probably read it. Judge Ellison cleared his throat, looked back down at the document, then flipped through the attached exhibits methodically. Clause 7C, he repeated, mostly to himself like he was testing the words. In the event of marital infidelity involving undisclosed financial transactions, the entirety of marital assets reverts to the non-offending party. His eyes sharpened as he looked up. Is this your signature, Mrs. Harding? Dana blinked hard. What? Yes, but... And these financial records attached, they're all verified? Wexler couldn't answer, too busy scanning those documents like a man reading his own obituary. He looked up once, barely above a whisper. The house, the accounts. Dana, what did you do? She went pale. I stayed completely quiet because this wasn't some soap opera moment where I'd gloat or deliver a monologue. I'd spent 2 years preparing for this exact moment, and I wasn't about to dilute it with unnecessary noise. See, this whole thing started 2 years earlier when we were sitting in this boutique family law office, one of those places that smells like expensive leather and quiet judgment. Dana was all smiles, sipping from some reusable water bottle that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. Her freshly manicured nails were tapping impatiently against the armrest because she hated waiting even more than she hated being questioned about anything. Don't take this personally, she said without even looking up from her phone. A prenup just makes sense. It's not about you. It's about protecting what I had before us, just being smart. She used that phrase constantly. Just being smart. Like when she decided my home office needed to become her walk-in closet. Or when she suggested moving her money into joint accounts for tax efficiency. Especially when she shut down any conversation about having kids because, let's not be reckless, Thomas, let's be smart. Dana genuinely believed she was smarter than everyone around her. She confused being loud with being intelligent, speed with accuracy, control with wisdom. So I nodded politely, smiled, signed the intake forms right alongside her. But that night, I stayed late at my office. Didn't sleep, didn't pace around stressed out. I sat down and wrote 31 clauses, covering everything from property splits to inheritance protections. Simple language, mutual safeguards, nothing complicated. Clause 7C was buried between the retirement plan summary and joint liability section. Just one seemingly innocent line. In the event of marital infidelity involving undisclosed financial transactions, the entirety of marital assets reverts to the non-offending party. No complex legalese, no smoke and mirrors, just surgical precision. It wasn't hidden. It was invisible. The kind of thing you completely miss when you're skimming documents with pure arrogance. The kind of detail lawyers overlook when they assume they already know what they're looking for. Her attorney was this mid-tier guy named Arnold Halloran, big talker who billed like he was performing brain surgery. He gave my draft a 2-day turnaround without calling once to clarify anything. I could tell from how he handed it back, barely annotated, just paper-clipped together, that he hadn't bothered reading past page 5. Probably saw the clean formatting and assumed it was standard boilerplate language. Dana signed the thing while FaceTiming her sister, laughing at something happening off-screen. "Of course I trust him," she said, barely glancing at the pages. "It's not like I'm marrying some con artist." I signed my copy a full day later at home, quietly, carefully, taking my time with each page. Then I locked the final PDF in a password-protected archive with a backup hash on a separate drive. I didn't necessarily think I'd need it, not back then, but I knew Dana well enough to understand she'd test boundaries eventually. She didn't like limits she hadn't set herself. The shift started sooner than I expected. Weekend wellness retreat that mysteriously turned out to be in Miami instead of Sedona. A few receipts that went missing during our monthly financial reconciliation. Then this sudden fascination with private investing opportunities, usually pitched through some friend of her cousin's new boyfriend's network. I said absolutely nothing because I wasn't going to interrupt her process. I was going to let her walk straight into the trap she was building for herself. What Dana didn't realize was that while she thought the prenup was some protective wall she'd built around her assets, it was actually a corridor, one I'd designed with only one exit, and she was walking toward it in designer heels. 6 months after she signed, I scheduled a review with a different firm, a college buddy of mine who'd become a partner at this white-glove asset litigation place. He walked through every single line with me, and when he got to Clause 7C, he actually chuckled. "You realize this is completely enforceable, right? That's the idea. She actually signed this." She skimmed it. He shook his head slowly. "You're either a genius or a complete psychopath." I smiled. Can I be both? But I still didn't act. I waited patiently because Dana wasn't finished yet. She never was. The real escalation started with one of her trademark shrugs, that specific offhand, patronizing gesture Dana used when she thought she was running circles around someone intellectually. "Don't worry about it," she said, twisting the cap off another bottle of imported spring water that probably cost more than most people's lunch. "It's just some cleanup before things get messy." She said it with this casual confidence, like she was discussing rearranging furniture instead of systematically dismantling our financial partnership. We were still technically married, still living under the same roof like actors in a play nobody wanted to see, though she'd claimed the master bedroom while I got relegated to what used to be the guest room and had become more like a holding cell. We passed each other like coworkers at a failing startup, where everyone knows the company is dying, but nobody wants to admit it. The refrigerator had become a territorial battleground, my food carefully labeled with my initials, hers elaborately color-coded with different colored tape for different food categories. Even our dog Pickle had figured out the Cold War dynamic and stopped sleeping on her side of the bed months earlier. She used the word cleanup like she was discussing laundry, not talking about systematically moving our money around, because that's exactly what Dana was doing, and she was reckless about one crucial thing: digital paper trails. Months before she even filed the divorce petition, she did something interesting. Opened a new joint account under both our names without mentioning it, probably assuming I wouldn't discover it until the legal discovery phase, if ever. To her, it was just another strategic move on a chessboard she believed she owned completely. What she didn't account for was me getting the welcome packet in the mail like some kind of cosmic joke. She'd forgotten to opt out of paper statements. A rookie mistake for someone who thought she was playing three-dimensional chess while everyone else was stuck playing checkers. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, thick and official-looking, with both our names printed in that sterile bank font that makes everything seem more legitimate than it actually is. I didn't confront her about it because confrontation gives people opportunities to squirm, justify their actions, twist the narrative. What I wanted was ironclad documentation. 3 weeks after that account opened, $240,000 vanished through 3 separate wire transfers like money being fed through a paper shredder. They were disguised under deliberately vague business descriptors like consulting fees, advance payment, and vendor acquisition, the kind of generic language that sounds legitimate until you actually think about what it means. But when you traced where that money actually went, following the digital breadcrumbs through various routing numbers and intermediary accounts, All roads led to the same destination, a shell corporation registered under her mother's business, Rosen Strategies LLC, a company that hadn't posted legitimate profits since 2012, but somehow kept its business license active. Dana must have thought this was brilliant strategy, moving our money to a family business where she could reclaim it after the divorce without technically violating asset disclosure requirements. If it wasn't so insulting to my intelligence, it might have actually been impressive. She even had the balls to joke about it during brunch with her friends. I wasn't there, but Julie, one of her crew who had a habit of sending me screenshots when Dana got too bold, forwarded me the photo. Dana holding up a mimosa captioned, "Spring cleaning isn't just for closets, babe," with money with wings emojis and a kiss-blowing face. Meanwhile, I was sitting in my office with a forensic accountant named Matt Lindell and a glass of bourbon, mapping every single transaction on a whiteboard like we were investigating a homicide. Every dollar led back to her. Every transfer was cross-verified with timestamps, IP addresses, login credentials. Dana did everything from her phone using our home Wi-Fi, logged in under her own name. It wasn't theft. It was a confession written in digital ink. Then came the cherry on top, an email from her mother to Dana with the subject line, "Re the transfer, thank you." I stared at that message longer than I care to admit, not because I was surprised, but because of how casually it was written, like systematically robbing your husband was just part of some normal family ritual. "Dana, thank you for moving everything over so quickly. This will give us the breathing room we needed. I'll hold it under our business account until things blow over. Love you, Mom." She even attached a receipt for the business ledger update. So thoughtful. I printed everything. The emails, the bank statements, the Shell Corporation registration paperwork. Built a dossier that looked like it came from a federal investigation. My accountant labeled every section color-coded and indexed. I didn't even need to annotate anything because the documents told the story themselves. And still I said nothing. Kept walking the dog every morning. Kept brewing 2 cups of coffee knowing she'd only take 1. Kept pretending we were in this slow-motion limbo where everything was drifting toward inevitable paperwork and uncomfortable dinners with mutual friends. Because the trap was perfectly baited now. She thought she'd hidden her crimes under the flag of marital housekeeping, but I'd already invited the judge to witness the cleanup. The investigation expanded when I found a Starbucks receipt tucked into her grocery bags, $6.45 charged to a card I didn't recognize, but with our home address on the digital receipt. She'd used the cafe's Wi-Fi under our home network credentials. That's when I called Matt Lindell, this forensic accountant who owed me a favor from years back. Guy who wore wrinkled suits and smelled like copy machine toner, but could follow money through a sewer system and back out the other side. "I need you to trace everything," I said quietly, handing him a thumb drive loaded with every joint statement, business filing, and partial login she'd carelessly left on our shared computer. First discovery was an offshore corporation registered in Belize, predictably another shadow entity linked to Rosen Strategies under the guise of import consulting. She'd funneled $28,000 there over 6 months in $4,000 bursts, staying just under IRS reporting thresholds. The transfers originated from an account opened in her cousin Brian's name. Poor kid thought he was helping family. Next was the car lease she'd bragged about, that Range Rover she helped Brian get just to get him on his feet. Except the lease was in his name, payments made through her Shell LLC, insurance paid from a bridal photography business fund she'd told me was closed 2 years earlier. Matt found the cryptocurrency last, mix of Ethereum and some ridiculous meme coin called Shibmaster or something equally idiotic. She thought crypto was untraceable. It wasn't. She used her usual online alias DM_Harding82, which happened to match her Pinterest username, Uber profile, and the Netflix account she'd set up for her mother. People leave fingerprints everywhere. Dana left financial footprints in concrete. We traced her wallet to 4 separate cash-outs, one to a luxury spa retreat in Arizona, one to some high-end boutique in Soho, one to a weird premium dating app I'd never heard of, and one straight into a trust fund she'd labeled the Jade Initiative. That last one was particularly interesting. The Jade Initiative was set up as a women's empowerment grant administered through some obscure startup bank. Looked noble on the surface, but dig deeper, and it was just a parking account accessible only to the founder and one administrator. The founder, Dana Harding. The administrator, her mother. Matt slid the final folder across my desk. "Each transfer, timestamp, IP logs, device IDs, login locations. One even pinged from your home Wi-Fi while she was supposedly out buying groceries. If a judge doesn't believe this evidence, they're either blind or bought. See, Dana wasn't stealing because she needed money. She was stealing because she thought she was too intelligent to get caught. She'd constructed this elaborate empire of lies supported by fake names and shell companies, assuming the complexity would bury the truth deep enough that nobody would bother digging. She didn't count on someone methodically documenting every move, piece by piece, like a surgeon preparing for the most important operation of their career. At night, I'd sit in our kitchen while she whispered into her phone in the next room, talking like a teenager, sneaking calls past curfew, completely unaware that sound travels through our thin walls like gossip through a small town. I moved it already. No, it's under Brian's name. It's completely clean. I told you, the crypto is off-grid. He doesn't even know I own it. He still thinks the bridal account is closed. Yes, I'm absolutely sure. Her voice carried this quiet thrill, almost breathless with excitement, like keeping secrets made her feel more alive than our entire marriage ever had. Sometimes she'd laugh at something the person on the other end said, and it was this conspiratorial giggle that made my skin crawl. Let her enjoy it, I thought. Because I wasn't hunting anymore. I was archiving. Every transaction, every login, every screenshot carefully placed into a growing file. Time-stamped, notarized, backed up 3 different ways. This wasn't just evidence. It was a eulogy for her financial life. I chose the final confrontation location carefully. Coffee shop, not too quiet, not too crowded, just enough ambient noise to make it neutral territory. Got there early, took a seat by the window, ordered black coffee and a biscotti I had no intention of eating. When Dana arrived, she didn't sit immediately, just stood there with one hand on her hip, sunglasses still on indoors like some washed-up social media influencer. "You said this was urgent," she snapped, sliding into the chair across from me like she was doing me some enormous favor. She didn't remove the sunglasses, didn't make eye contact. I didn't respond immediately, let her marinate in the silence. She finally sighed dramatically. "Thomas, I really don't have time for another guilt trip about the house situation." "It's not about the house," I said calmly, one eyebrow raised above her designer frames. "I just want you to make absolutely sure your lawyer reads the entire prenup. Start to finish, no skimming allowed." She scoffed so loudly that people at 2 nearby tables turned their heads. "Seriously? You dragged me here for that?" I didn't answer, which seemed to irritate her even more. She leaned forward, voice low and loaded with venom. "You're not going to get a single dime, Thomas. Not the house, not the bank accounts, not even the dog." "I'm not asking for anything," I replied evenly. "I'm asking you to read." Dana's mouth curved into that familiar smirk. Not playful, but cruel. The expression she used when she wanted to humiliate someone gently, like a cat playing with a dying mouse. "We've got this completely covered," she said, pushing back her chair and standing up. "My attorney is extremely thorough." I nodded. "I'm sure he is." She left without saying goodbye, heels clicking across the tile floor like a countdown timer. 24 hours later, I got the email. Subject line, your concern from Arnold Halloran, ESQ. "Thomas, appreciate your suggestion, but rest assured we've reviewed the prenup comprehensively. You may want to prepare your financial disclosures accordingly. We'll see you in court. Best, Arnold." There it was. Confirmation they hadn't actually seen Clause 7C. They thought they'd won before the game even started. I closed the email, leaned back in my chair, and exhaled. Not relief, resolve. That was the precise moment I stopped thinking of this as a divorce proceeding and started thinking of it as an execution. In Dana's mind, she was already on some beach somewhere, sipping cocktails paid for with my money, telling her friends how I just folded because I was too weak to fight back. She always underestimated silence. 2 days after our coffee meeting, she transferred another $8,000 to Rosen Strategies. Matt flagged it instantly, even called me. "She's doubling down," he said. "Good," I replied. "Let her." The deeper she sank into her illusion of victory, the tighter she was tying her own noose. Back in that courtroom, the judge finished reading my submission and the attached financial forensics. The silence wasn't empty. It was loaded with the weight of Dana's own choices. "Mr. Wexler, were you aware of this clause when you advised your client?" Wexler opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His lips moved, throat swallowed, but just heat rising up his collar. Dana leaned toward him, whispering frantically, but he was already scanning the exhibits, seeing Clause 7C for the first time. The provision that dismantled their entire legal strategy like a controlled demolition. The judge turned back to me. Mr. Harding, would you like to submit this into the official record? Yes, Your Honor. I closed my folder and returned to my seat while Dana stared at the desk, like the wood might swallow her whole. The ruling came swift and surgical. The prenuptial agreement is valid and enforceable. Clause 7C provides compelling evidence of breach. The court awards Mr. Harding full retention of all marital assets, including the primary residence, joint retirement accounts, investment portfolios, and business holdings. Mrs. Harding retains the personal vehicle currently titled in her name and any non-marital possessions. That car, that was all she had left. Not the house she'd remodeled without asking. Not the pool she'd bragged about on Instagram. Not the account she'd tried to drain like a financial vampire. As I walked past her afterward, she called my name. Her voice cracked like glass underfoot. I didn't respond, didn't look back. Just kept walking to my car while she stood on those courthouse steps. The Queen of Ashes holding a designer bag that no longer contained keys to anything that mattered. She thought she was clever. She was just careless. And now she finally understood that I wasn't trying to win. I was making sure she lost. Completely.